have you ever had the thought, what if my advisor is wrong? It's a fair question, especially when the future feels uncertain. So today we're going to talk about that doubt and explain what advisors are actually meant to do.
This is the Money Master Podcast.
So I'm here with Tori and Connie, and as usual, Connie is going to lead us through the conversation today.
Yeah, so this is such a great topic because it's one of those questions that people are asking inside, and they might talk about it with their spouse or with a friend, but don't necessarily bring it up to their advisor. So we're going to address the question of, what if my advisor is a little bit off? What if the advice that I'm following ends up not being so good for me? Right? So how do we address that?
Potentially unspoken fear that people are carrying around, not saying out loud.
Right. Or what if your assumptions, like how dependent are we on the assumptions? People are afraid of the assumptions will change. This time it's different. Something is going to change and it's not going to be okay.
Yeah. And I can think of some clients who have not outwardly said, tell me that your plan's completely on track and perfect, but they're saying, well, what assumption are you using for this? And what are you using for this? And I need to understand this. And that's what they're getting at is, can I really trust your plan? Can I really trust what you're doing for me?
Well, smart people ask those questions. And that's the key, is that a plan is not perfection. It's not predicting. It's being adaptable. It's being able to make assumptions as best we can, and then know that we have choices and we can pivot when necessary, right? Mm-hmm.
And it's good to ask the questions because people want to have clarity and confidence in their plan. We talk about that all the time. So it's good that they're asking questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you're a natural, normal person, right? It's not natural to not question.
Blindly trust.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's talk about what an advisor is not. So let's clear this up, right? So what is a financial advisor not responsible for?
Predicting the market.
Not
And if I had a quarter for every time a client laughingly said, so what do you think the market's going to do? They know better. They know we can't do that, but they just somewhere deep inside they want to know, but that's not what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
It's predict.
Well, advisors are not stock pickers, right? They're not perfect forecasters, right? And I think the media portrays that because it's all about the next great thing, right? The hot topic, the hot person. But good advisors don't try to be right. They try to be prepared for what does go wrong or when we are wrong, right? And so that can happen in other areas, like if you're assuming a certain return. Well, if a certain part of your retirement doesn't get close to that return and there needs to be an adjustment, right? That's what the good planner is there for, right? Same thing with maybe healthcare. Maybe you've budgeted for a certain amount of healthcare. You've got it in your plan, but then some things come up in your life and change, and there needs to be the ability to kind of make wise decisions. Or you're spending. A lot of people really underestimate what they're going to spend on certain things, and being able to know, if your spending pattern changes, be able to kind of make some adjustments and pivot. I mean, that's really what they're doing. It's not predicting, right? It's working again with the best assumptions that we have, and then making adjustments if we need to, so we get the most use of our money.
Adapting where we need to make changes.
Is it common for people to come in and have unrealistic expectations, and then you kind of have to readjust those expectations for them?
We try to find out if they have unrealistic expectations before we ever bring them on as a client.
Yeah.
And what might be an example of an unrealistic expectation?
I mean, being undersaved and trying to say that you're going to spend the same you're spending right now. I mean, you have that level of like, your money can't do that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
The math doesn't work.
Yeah, there's only so many variables, right? Or you expect the market to do something that's never done before. Or your plan is dependent upon a certain high level rate of return, right? That's not probable, those types of things. Or you think that you're looking backwards and we should have been in this or that, right? When we know, diversification means we're not trying to predict, right? We're just trying to be prepared for when we're wrong. We can't predict the outcomes. We can just prepare ourselves for the responses that need to happen.
That's good. So talk to us about the value of working with a financial advisor.
The first thing that comes to mind, this is what I tell people a lot, is we're your sounding board. Like, so when we're saying we're not going to get everything perfect, we're not trying to predict, we're not trying, like that's not our job, but we are here to walk through those moments with you when there's a little bit of uncertainty or how's my plan look. We're your person to come back to and say, okay, can we check in? I have questions about what my plan's looking like in this season. Okay, that's what we're here for.
Constantly giving you the correct perspective, the accurate perspective, or helping you with your perspective, right? Not emotionally reacting, not getting paralyzed. We talk about the big mistake, right? The big mistake is making adjustments during a market drawdown, right? Making adjustments because you think the election is going to have a certain outcome, right? Nobody knows that. Like nobody knows that. And it doesn't matter for your long-term success if you have a good plan. Like that short-term noise rarely matters for your long-term plan. And we need to hear that because we don't hear it enough, because all we hear is, U.S.-China tensions is going to, cause this problem or cause that problem. Oh my gosh, Ukraine is going to cause these problems. The dollar is going to go away and we're going to use a different type of currency. Like all these things constantly create this, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be okay. Yeah. So having some perspective, right? That's why I write an email just about every week about the positive side, the optimistic side, the true perspective of what's going on in the economy or in the market.
Those are two really good things. Like you said, a sounding board, right? Just that alone brings so much peace of mind to people, because the amount of clients that, will call and be like, hey, I'm thinking about buying a car. I'm thinking about making this investment into another property, or the list goes on and on, right? But just to have that sounding board and you saying to them, hey, let me see how this affects your plan. Hey, this works. You're good. It's just like, oh, okay, good. I can do that. Yeah.
And then just last week, somebody had called in and said, and we really appreciate the honor of this, but they're like, I'm thinking about buying a car. And obviously I've been retired for 5 years now. My vehicle's a 2013. I really need to upgrade. I'm thinking about doing this. And they gave us the whole story. It was like, we looked at the plan. We said, it doesn't really matter if you do it this way or that way, but here's some circumstances as to why you maybe would do it this particular way. And, we really appreciate that, but that just helps them to know, because for them, it wasn't going to make a difference in their plan, how they paid for the car, but for somebody else, it might.
Well, and we would rather you give us the call and say, help me, calm me down, talk me through this, than call us and say, move me to cash, I'm panicking. We want to have the conversation out. Let's talk through what's going on. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And we do. I mean, occasionally a client will call and we'll say, you're okay. And they're like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
To be clear, we're talking about people who are already retired withdrawing.
Yes.
Because, somebody who's not retired, they're not going to call us about how to buy a car, right?
Right.
I mean, they may, but for the most part, things become more precarious at this stage. So like at this stage, you hear me talk about it a lot in our YouTube videos, we talk about just bringing those together those areas of planning, like taxes, withdrawal timing, the amount of risk you have. And we're doing that over decades, not just this year, right? So there's that perspective of the big picture and this year picture kind of all happening at the same time. So that's where a lot of value is found.
Hey there, this is a quick break to talk about how you pay yourself in retirement. People often ask about how much they're going to be able to spend each month from their savings when they're no longer working. You may have heard of the 4% rule, the bucket strategy, or nameless others, but none of them do a good job measuring your true spending capacity. That is, how much can you afford to spend each month confidently? I wrote a white paper you might want to read. It's about a guardrail system for retirement that can help you do better in retirement. And I think it's probably the best withdrawal strategy available. There's no cost to download and read it. If you want a copy, all you have to do is text the word income to our business line at 214-988-9178. That's it, just the word income, and send it to 214-988-9178. And we'll send that paper about guardrails straight to you.
Well, let's talk about what the research shows about the value of an advisor. So I'm going to read a couple of these. Vanguard's Advisor Alpha study says advisors can add about 3% in net value per year, mostly from behavioral coaching, tax efficiency, and spending strategy, which we just talked about that. We touched on that.
And to be clear, it wasn't because they got a better return in the market. It was because of
Behavioral.
behavioral, tax efficiency, decision making. Yeah.
Right. Yep. Morningstar says people working with advisors report significantly higher confidence and satisfaction with their financial decisions. Again, being that sounding board, right?
They're not doing it alone.
Yeah. And lastly, the CFP board studies says households that work with a CFP professional are more likely to stick to long-term plans, report peace of mind, and avoid reactionary behavior during market events.
So you notice it's not just about the credentials, it's about coordinating all aspects of your financial life, not just picking an investment. Clear distinction between a planner and maybe like a broker. Mm-hmm.
And planning assumptions, we talked about this briefly a little bit earlier in the episode, but when you're doing the financial plan for people, they kind of secretly maybe doubt some of the assumptions. Is this math really right? How good is this software? Like, can I trust what the software or the math says? So am I correct in saying that? Do people kind of feel that, or they
I
say
think to
things?
some level. I think some people, see the plan work and they're like, okay, I'm on track. Some people want to get more into the nitty gritty and the details of it.
Yeah.
But that's where, planning starts with those assumptions. It's
Yeah.
not guaranteed forever and ever and ever that we just never touch those things again.
Yeah.
So that's where it starts. That's the baseline. And that's the goal of being flexible and adaptable and checking in. We tell all of our clients, we need to check in at least once a year. This isn't a set it and forget it, never come back to it. This will last for 30 years. We need to make adjustments
Right.
and
Right.
update.
Yeah, planning starts with the assumptions, but those are not guaranteed. Those are going to change, and so this is where you have science and art, right? It is a science. There is math behind what's happening, and every good person should ask the question because there's some pretty bad software out there. Like there's stuff that's made to look good when it really isn't great. Like there's software that's designed to make products look good, but being able to kind of know that those assumptions are going to change and be able to adapt to that. For like the example I gave earlier, if you're targeting a 6% return after inflation, but the first 10 years of your retirement, you're only at a 4.5% return, maybe there's some changes need to be happening to your plan, and you need to know how to act, when that at that time period, if that happens to you.
And that's where the art of it comes in, right? The science and the art, like you said. There's a number side to it, but then there's a how do we respond to this?
So for example, let's say that Mike and Julie plan on working till 65, spending $90,000 a year, maybe a 6% average return, inflation's 2.5%. But 3 years into this plan, she gets offered a early retirement package at 62 and she wants to take it. At that same time, inflation had spiked to 4%. The market dropped by 20% the year before. So we don't just throw the whole plan out and say it was no good. We just adjust, right? So
That's where the assumptions change.
ran new projections with Julie retiring earlier, reallocated their spending priorities and accounted for the higher inflation temporarily so she could reflect that and pay herself more. And because we had, let's say, guardrails set up, there was some flexibility built in so she could say yes to that buyout without panic and still feel confident that she'd be okay for the long haul, right? So the assumptions are just used to be as mostly accurate, right?
That's why it's not set it and forget it. Like we've said a couple of times, you don't just use those baseline assumptions of 65 and there's no flexibility. You can't ever change your plan, or that the baseline, the inflation, the returns, that those don't change too.
Exactly. I mean, for a decade, inflation was super low, and yet we still had 3.2% general inflation in our plans for a long time. But people who were actually retired were keeping up with whatever real inflation was. So they didn't give themselves a raise for a very long time. However, 2021, 2022, almost everybody in retirement was giving themselves raises for the first time significantly in a long time. That's more of that real-time adjustment.
So what would you still say to the person who wonders, what if my advisor is getting it wrong? Any last thoughts you want to throw out there?
I think I go back to that sounding board word that we used in the past. We're not meant to be here for perfection. We're here to walk through it with you and make adjustments, be flexible, walk through it together.
Yeah.
That's good.
Provide input.
Well, your plan isn't a guarantee, right? It's something to be used to bring clarity and to continually bring yourself back to, which is why the top of financial plans should have a one-page summary or a one-page plan that is that due north, that is the important pieces. They are the important pieces with the goals and what's next, right? What's important. But it's not perfection. It is a sounding board, and it's the ability to be resilient rather than to try to predict everything.
Right. I'm going to read what we wrote in the notes because I think it's really good. Having a plan doesn't make uncertainty go away, but it makes you stronger when it shows up. So that question that they're asking about, is my plan perfect? Is everything, well, probably not perfect across the board. There's something that's going to change or something we didn't know would show up one day or, whatever it is. But so it doesn't remove uncertainty, whether it be in your personal life or the market or whatever is going to happen. But you have something behind you when it shows up to help you feel more peace of mind.
And it helps you to avoid the big mistakes. And I mean, that's like the big part of it, right? Avoiding the big mistakes.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you joining us today. And if you've ever had this question, you're definitely not alone. And we hope that this episode brought some clarity and some different perspective. If you're ready to build a plan that doesn't depend on prediction, but gives you clarity and control, you can visit us at brindleandbay.com. And we'd love to see your comments in the comment section, what stood out to you in this episode, and share it with a friend. We appreciate you. See you next time.
Nick Davis is an investment advisor representative of Brindle Bay Financial Advisors, a registered investment advisor. This show is for informational purposes only. Any references to client experiences made may be deemed to be indirect testimonials. Clients were not compensated for providing any testimonial statements. Any references to client experiences are for illustrative purposes only. Actual client experiences will vary. Any exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered financial advice or recommendation to buy or sell a financial vehicle. You should consult a qualified financial tax or legal professional before taking any action. This program is not endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency. Brindle Bay Wealth Management is affiliated with Brindle Bay Financial Advisors.